Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock Company Spotlight. Today we are back with Mentis Life Sciences. The stock symbol is NMLSF, over the counter Nova on the CSE. And we have with us back again Dr. Marvin Hausman, the Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Marvin, welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be here. I like the way you say super stock. Okay, I like that. Okay.
Well, you know,
so we're in good company, Jack.
You are, because, well, I'll tell you why. Because, you know, with our next super stock program, you know, our goal is to bring investors those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside. We've had, you know, nine stocks in the last, you know, few years that have increased between 1,000% and 5,000%, 10x to 50x. So we're looking for that 10x to 100x, you know, super stock. And again, you know, companies just like Nova, which have, you know, going after massive multi-billion-dollar market opportunities at a key inflection point and multiple catalysts in place. So I think that would describe Nova. But you know, with that said, Mark, I want to get into really get an update. What's been happening? You're back. The summer is over. We've got a lot of exciting things now. The main event, I think, before we actually, you know what, before we get started, give a quick summary because we have new people watching. For anybody that's brand new, explain to us what Mentis is doing in the, you know, psilocybin space. What kind of, you know, the markets you're going after, the type of drugs you're developing, that type of thing.
Well, I like the way you say the summer's over. The summer's never been over for us. We never got it started. We continue working. I mean, I was invited just a couple of months ago to the 18th International, the World Meetings on Fragile X Syndrome in San Diego. We were presented our data. We had fantastic preclinical data out of Italy. We're essentially the first company to actually have psilocybin in an animal model in Fragile X syndrome and reverse the symptoms. And so I presented all of our data at the Fragile X meeting. It was well received, and I'm very excited. But the summer it didn't really come. There was no summer for me. I just worked straight through in terms of you know, we're getting our study ready to be launched into humans because we've done 5 studies preclinical in animal models, some of the finest autism and Fragile X models in the world. They're in Italy with Dr. Viviana Treza, who's a world-renowned neuroscientist, preclinical research, and we're blown away by the results. We were able, with a microdose therapy, to, on a repetitive basis, no hallucinogenic side effects, which everybody's concerned about with psilocybin, very low dose, repetitive over 2 weeks, and then the animals were studied 5 days after the last dose, and we totally reversed memory. We brought the memory up almost above the wild type, which are the controls. I've never seen data like that.
Okay, so this is you mentioned a couple of interesting things. So, you know, if for anybody to essentially right now, you know, Mentis is essentially, your goal is to develop a therapeutic for, you know, Fragile X syndrome, which is a kind of a subset of autism, correct?
It's the largest genetic subset of autism.
Okay, and the idea.
The nice thing about Fragile X is that it's a very absolute diagnosis. Autism is a spectrum. There are many different variables in terms of subsets of autism. Fragile X is absolute. It's a genetic subset, and you know when you have Fragile X syndrome.
Okay, and this, okay, so what you said, let's unpack the significance of what you just said. So the reason you're targeting, you know, psilocybin microdosing your therapeutic for Fragile X is that because it is a absolute, so it is, so let's maybe unpack what that means in terms of getting it through clinical trials into commercialization. Why do you choose this, you know, particularly Fragile X? And then, of course, I want to talk about the markets beyond, you know, Fragile X and autism.
No, I got excited. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's the bullseye of autism. I mean, you're shooting right for the heart of autism because when you have a diagnosis, you know the diagnosis. You know when that child's admitted to the study and you do your 12 or 13 neurologic exams, you know the child has Fragile X, but also it's a genetic test. So you run the genetic. It's a mutation of the gene. So you can measure the child who has this genetic abnormality. I'll simplify it. There are repetitive sequences in every gene. Certain of these repetitive sequences are needed in order to form normal brain tissue. When a Fragile X child after birth has too many repetitive sequences, it cannot form the protein to form proper nerves and nerve endings and proper neurotransmission. So the Fragile X child has a lower amount of serotonin after birth compared to a normal child. And then as it develops towards age 10 and is autistic, the serotonin starts going up. In a normal child, it has a high level of serotonin right away and forms more normal brain tissue. And then as it approaches age 10, the serotonin decreases. So you know what entity you're dealing with here. And we applied for orphan drug approval in Fragile X syndrome. We qualify because there's only 1 in 4,000 males have Fragile X and 1 in 7,000 to 8,000 females. So it's almost a 2-to-1 ratio male to female. And it's an absolute diagnosis. So we're very excited about the results that we have a pure compound, psilocybin. We're able to reverse the symptoms, which are very similar to what's in humans in the rat. And we're ready to move on to the next stage, which is a final formulation and apply to the regulatory agencies for human studies.
Okay, so this is very significant. What you're saying is you shared a study at the Fragile X conference, right? Which is attended by, I guess, the who's. Maybe you could explain to us who the attendees are, what the audience and everything else.
Yeah, in your sector, there were a lot of companies. Shionogi was there, which is a very large Japanese company. Zynerba was there. A lot of the other companies that are in that look at Fragile X syndrome. We're using psilocybin. We're unique in that approach. The other companies aren't using psilocybin. So that distinguishes us from a lot of the other large companies who were at the meeting. And then you had people from mainly from the United States, but also from Canada and Europe, who have Fragile X children, and some of them brought their children. It was a very touching, moving meeting. I mean, I've never attended a meeting where the actual patients were there. And then you have many families who came without their children. So there wasn't a seat to be had. It was a well-attended meeting.
So basically, the data that you shared essentially showed in an animal model, right? I mean, basically, your research has shown essentially reversal of the symptoms of Fragile X in an animal model. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's.
Well, we also did another model of autism called the valproic acid model. So if you inject valproic acid, which is an anti-epileptic drug, into pregnant rats, the children are autistic. So we did that first, and we had very good results there. But then we really shot for the bullseye on the Fragile X. I wanted to have an absolute model.
Okay, so bottom line is your animal data shows, I mean, this could be potentially an effective therapeutic. So the goal now is to get, Novo Mentis, the microdose therapy, the psilocybin microdose therapy into human trials, right? This is the thing that we've been all waiting for, right? The human trials, and I think you're going to do this in Canada. So you're waiting to get the Health Canada approval to start the study. Is that right?
That's correct. We chose Canada because we have a good relationship with a clinical research organization in Canada. And we have a good relationship with the final formulator, which is the Toronto Institute of Pharmaceutical Technology. So everything is playing out to our side in Canada. So, and the Canadians are very receptive. I think they've lowered the bar on researching cannabis and psilocybin and other psychedelics. And so their regulatory agency is open to discussion with psilocybin. And we're very excited to try that as first.
Okay.
Once we get into Canada, we're going to go to the FDA.
Okay, so this is the big thing. I think this is as an investor, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Okay, what are the catalysts in place where value could be unleashed, and obviously, what's the path to commercialization and hitting those milestones, because every time you hit one of these milestones, in theory, as we see with biotech stocks, health, the valuation, reflects the new milestone. So the thing that we've been waiting for personally, I mean, I'm looking for the submission to Health Canada, right? This is the big thing now, Marvin. Now we were told back, I think in June, you went on a program. You said that we're going to have the data submitted to Health. Actually, we're going to be ready to submit to Health Canada for studies in, I think you said July, end of July, because basically, and there's been a delay, right? So we're about 4 weeks behind now. So what is?
I'm not sure we're behind. In pharmaceutical research, if you want to have a good product, and I've been at this game for a long time, 40 years, and I've worked for some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the United States and in Europe, you want a perfect product. You don't want to have to go back to the drawing board. You'll lose a lot more time. So if you say July and you go to August or September, and you could have a better formulation, it flows better into the capsule, stability studies are better, the delay is well worth it. You want a perfect product when you go into humans.
Okay, so the question is, when will the formulation, when will the microdose pill be ready so that we can start the human trials? That's the big question, because we're waiting for that announcement, basically.
I have to be careful because I don't want to give away inside information. There'll be public announcements coming out shortly. We're very close. I'll just leave it at that to say that we've accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish to date. And the next steps are to have a final gel capsule with a very small dose of psilocybin, have stability studies to show that when you take it in temperatures in Canada in the wintertime and summertime, that the pill stays stable. At that moment, we will show Health Canada the final capsule, and we will submit our dossier to Health Canada to get approval. Supposedly, it takes only 30 days for Health Canada to respond. So we're looking at a real short cycle coming up. I'll leave it at that, but I'm excited.
Give me a hint. Are we talking about?
Let me just finish. Let me say something, Jack. With my experience, are very pleased where Nova Mentis is today with respect to the submission to Health Canada. And keep in mind that if that data is positive, and of course it's going to take time to find Fragile X children who are perfect, who want to enter the study, and those results, when they're submitted, the FDA is going to be very interested. The EMA in Europe is going to be very interested because they respect the Canadian study.
Okay, so when will the capsules be ready for? We're talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Today is September 6th, right? So we're expecting this in mid-July, late July. When can we see? Like, give me a hint. Are we talking a couple of weeks?
I just mentioned that we're right on schedule.
Okay.
We're going to put out a public announcement when those capsules are absolutely ready for submission to Health Canada.
Okay. So so essentially you ship the psilocybin, the ingredient, to the formula, the manufacturer, right? This is Toronto. What is it? Toronto Institute.
Yeah, I call them TIPT, Toronto Institute of Pharmaceutical Technology.
Okay.
They're at the University of Toronto. They're type A organization. They're at the top. of the
Okay.
game.
So basically what they've been doing now, I know it's been the summer,
And
so
by the way, they're so type A,
yeah.
they will not release it till it's perfect.
Okay, so that's good. Okay, so the good news is that means there's not going to be any surprises by the time it gets into the trials in terms of formulation or stability, stability and all that. So essentially, what is what have they been working on? They've been working on in terms of optimizing the formulation, stability studies. Like, what's the
So when you manufacture a product, you have an active pharmaceutical ingredient. So our active pharmaceutical ingredient was manufactured by Sterling Pharma Solutions. We have a relationship with them for going on for years. Then that API, which is almost 100% pure, is then sent. You have to have a license. You send it to Canada to your final formulator, which in this case was TIPT. Then TIPT takes this and they have to now have it flow into a capsule. So you have to add some excipients that allow proper flow and mixing. So when you have a microdose capsule, just think about it. You have a very small amount that's in a capsule. You have to have the distribution to be perfect. So when you add other substances to it, it's a very small amount within a larger capsule. There's a very small amount of psilocybin we're using. So you have to have a technology that allows the mixing to occur. And then you take areas in the mixing bowl from the upper right, from the upper left, the middle. I'm being simple about this. And you analyze it. And they have to be identical. So if there's a 98.5% pure psilocybin, Nova psilocybin in the upper right-hand corner of the mixing bowl, you have to have 98.5% psilocybin in the upper left-hand corner. You take the middle of the bowl, and then you have to do the same thing in the capsule. So you take the capsule, and then you dissolve the capsule, or you can remove parts of the capsule substances. And it has to be exact. Think about that. That is called perfection. And you don't do that by saying, I'm going to have it July 10th or August 12th. It takes whatever time is necessary to get that perfect. And we have achieved that. And I will make the proper announcement at the right time when that capsule has been released. So you can go to sleep to think maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's in 2 weeks. Maybe it's next week. I'm going to leave you to think about that. And when it's right, we'll make the announcement. And the world will be impressed when we're ready to launch.
Okay, because investors, they like to see things immediately. By next Tuesday, we're like but things take a little bit. Things sometimes.
No, let me ask you, if the investor had an autistic child, he would want the best pure product in a capsule to be taken by his autistic child.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want anyone to cut corners. He wouldn't want a pharmaceutical company just to make money to cut corners. And we don't, at Nova, we don't cut corners.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. Also, I think it's important for the audience to know, in case somebody's watching this for the first time, your background essentially is in, clinical research, getting drugs through the FDA process into commercialization. So you've gone through this process a couple of times before in your career.
I would say I've done it at least 10 times.
Okay. And you've got
it's more than a couple, right?
Yeah, it's more. Yeah. So in terms of actual drugs commercialized, devices commercialized through the FDA process.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't include. I've done a couple of devices, but I started this game in 1977 when I finished my residency at UCLA. I was a board certified kidney surgeon, transplant surgeon, but I was approached by the biggest company, Bristol Myers, to develop antibiotics for them. Wellcome Foundation to develop the largest antidepressant in the world called Wellbutrin. I've done a lot of work, and I know the game well. And you don't cut corners, especially big pharma. I learned from the best.
Okay, so the good news is we're waiting for the formulation to be finished The capsules to be ready, which could be, like literally, okay, based on what you said, I mean, I can't, it's imminent, meaning it could be, 3 o'clock this afternoon. It could be a couple of weeks, but I'm taking that away. I'm just taking,
Tonight, Zach. Could be
no,
tonight.
could be today. Well, today is September 6th. But anyway, essentially it's imminent, it's coming right up. So we're really approaching I think this is actually that major catalyst. Although look, the reality is, the stocks, microcaps have been in a bear market. So, a lot of biotech stocks have been totally destroyed in the last, 12 months. So, in a normal market, if this news came out that the capsule, is ready and you're going to submit to Health Canada, the stock would probably be up 5x. In this market, it may not even react. I don't even know, so it'll be interesting. But the reality is, okay, so here's the thing. Here, let's talk about the path. I'm looking at it. Okay, the path to commercialization, and obviously those milestones, should have an impact on the stock once we hit those milestones. So submission to Health Canada will happen as soon as the formulation is ready, which is imminent. Then now. Health Canada, essentially, you're going to submit the capsule and also the trial protocols, right?
Absolutely. 58 pages ready to be submitted. When we have the capsule ready, and we'll send a capsule with the submission, so Health Canada can look at it.
So
See
they're going to
exactly
have that.
how we're going to dose it. Remember, this is a Schedule 1 drug. You have to have how you present it to the patient is very important. You're giving it a bottle or you're giving it a blister pack. These are all very important chess moves. And each one is important because I want to checkmate. I want to win the game. And I want to have a proper submission. I want to have a quick approval. And I want to be able to make an announcement that we've launched our first and admitted our first human patient into a psilocybin study in Canada. That's my objective.
That's going to be a major milestone. Okay, so Health Canada has what? They have 30 days to respond when you submit the study, right?
I've been told that. I've been told that I think it's 30 days. I don't know. Some people say 45, but I've been recently told that it's about 30-day turnaround to get their response.
Or they may have comments. They may have comments or something. They may want to, change things, or they want to have different, change it. Could they have, comments on like the study design or things like that?
Absolutely. I hope not. That's why you have to be very careful. Every step of the way, we've gone through that submission. We have experts that have helped me, and we're ready. I think it's going. I don't know. I'm being very positive about it.
Okay. So let's say it goes to Health Canada, and we get Health Canada approves going forward with the study, right? Let's say that happens. I'm just gonna throw a date out there. It's September, so let's say 6 weeks from now is. I'm just gonna say November 1st, just to give us also a little time, right?
Wait, what are you saying? November 1st? I'm sorry.
So let's say Health Canada gives you the approval to go forward with the study, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say that happens by
today's September 6th.
So let's say it happens by November 1st. I'm just gonna throw a number out there. That's about
October. It could be within that. Yeah, we might make that. Yeah.
Okay. So then you start the study, and you're gonna enroll essentially a number of Fragile X patients into the study.
Yes, of course. Now you have to advertise. You have to recruit the patients. They have to be made sure they have Fragile X. You have to check their genetic testing. That's all in the protocol.
Okay. How long will the study last? In other words, I'm trying to get an idea of when can you submit the data from the study for potentially for approval, commercialization.
If the study is robust and the data is robust, well, the study is good and the data is robust, you could submit right away for approval.
Okay. But when will you know?
I can't tell you how many patients we're going to admit because we have to wait for Health Canada to okay the protocol.
Okay.
But it's not a very large number.
Okay. So in other words, I think some people might be thinking, wait, is this like, are these guys trying to enroll 1,000 patients? It might take, a couple of years to get that. How long do you think it's going to take to enroll the number of patients you need for the study
Well, Jack, you have to
to
remember,
satisfy Health Canada?
this is an orphan drug.
Okay. Oh,
Okay,
that's
so we don't need a lot of patients for orphan drug approval.
okay. That's a
They
hint.
might need maybe 15 patients. Who knows? But I'm not
Okay.
I'm not gonna take people over the wall and give them inside information. When
Okay.
we get approval from Health Canada, the number we want to use, we'll tell the world how many patients are going to be admitted.
Okay. But the significance of this is this, because it's an orphan drug, right? Let's say, because it's going to be a small population of patients. In theory, we should, it'll be easier to do this quickly. I'm being optimistic, so I like to think, putting myself in the shoes of investors. The investors will think, okay, it's a small study. If it's going to be, I don't know, 15 patients, 30 patients, whatever, how big can it be, right? If it's for an orphan drug. Again, and because it's Fragile X, I mean, it's kind of like it's an absolute, right? So it's going to be a yes or no. Based the data you're looking for is what
You'll know the diagnosis of the child.
So in other words, the endpoint. What's going to be the endpoint?
The age, we're going to have a certain age to admit. There are certain inclusion criteria. It could be from 18 to age 40. And then we may be able to admit them all at once within a week or two. We don't know what's going to happen when we open the study. It'll be advertised in Canada, and it's being advertised in the United States as well. Our intent is, once we submit to Health Canada and the world, I've said this, we're going to submit to the FDA.
Okay.
I mean, we're ready to go. The same submission. It's almost identical. The patients, we have good data, we would then apply for approval through an NDA process.
Okay. So in theory, that could be when?
I'm not going to go there, Jack, because that's a big game and a big number at that time for the stock. It depends how quickly, and we'll make announcements as we continue, how quickly we admit patients to the study. It depends on the good data. If the data is very positive, I'm not shy. I would apply to Health Canada for approval.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm asking, because obviously that would be a major milestone, which could reprice the stock by fact. Look, I mean, we see what happens when anybody gets positive data, even in this market, stocks are flying. So
Let me tell you one day at a time. The first thing is we're going to get the final pills. We're going to submit the pills with the submission to Health Canada. We're then going to make an announcement when we get approval. Then we're going to make announcements as we admit patients to the study.
Okay. So I'm trying to get to the answer of how long the study will take, and you don't want to answer. You don't want to, because okay.
Well, that depends. Hold it. How quickly can we recruit patients? I mean, it's an unknown at this point. We have to advertise in Canada. As I said, it could occur overnight or it could occur over several months.
Okay, but you also have this, what's his name? We had the John, who was on our program before, that he's got the big autism program in Canada. He should have some significant resource to get patients.
Yes, he doesn't deal with Fragile X. He deals with autism in general, but he's going to be one of our representatives to recruit Fragile X.
Okay.
He's agreed to that. John Molinaro is his name. But we also hired a very large CRO in Canada called KGK Science, and they're going to recruit patients for us very quickly.
Okay.
They have their own clinic. So this may move fairly quickly, but I'm not going to go overboard and announce something I have no control over.
Okay, but in theory, it could be a few months. The study could be wrapped up in a few months, no?
I will wrap it up.
Once you have 20 patients, let's say.
I will wrap it up as quickly as I can, Jack.
Okay. This is okay. So So the good news though is, so far the data that you have, at least from the animal model, has been pretty substantial. It's been pretty robust. No, you've been able to reverse symptoms of Fragile X in the animal model, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. I know the animal model, actually, how much of a correlation is there between the animal model for like neurological stuff and the human, like how much of a crossover is there, or like, is there a possibility of making it
Well,
work?
some people think there's an 80% correlation between the animal model and the human symptoms. I mean, the
Okay.
testing, the symptoms we have, object recognition, memory, social anxiety, social discrimination, all of those tests are very similar to what happens in the human. But you know, it's very interesting, Jack. You focused on just the preclinical. Think about it. We're a drug company, a biotech company. More important is a very pure, 100% pure psilocybin that you can manufacture in reproducible fashion. That's very important. We've accomplished that in record time. We've only been at this game under 3 years. And now we're into final capsule formulation, stability studies. We've done unbelievable in a short period of time. We've accomplished a lot. When you say you're focusing on the animals, what about the human product? We're ready to dose into a human. Think about that.
Would
You've
that
got
be so
companies out there
essentially?
that you have companies out there that are now regrouping in your sector. They're saying, "Oh, we had too many products we're developing. We have to downsize." I mean, you
The
go every
psychedelic,
day.
the psychedelic space.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done that. We've hardly raised any money, and look what we're accomplishing. We're ready to go into humans. We haven't diluted the stock. I mean, we're not resizing. We're not dismissing people. We're not repositioning the stock. How many stocks have reverse split in the last month or two?
Mind Med, a couple, there's been a few. So yeah,
Mitosine, I think Mitosine,
yeah.
MindMed.
So the good, so this actually, in other
Isn't
words,
a Thai, even a Thai is lowering their drug portfolio.
it looks, I mean, is it fair to say that Nova Mentis kind of is emerging as like, could be, is it fair to say it's almost a leader in the psychedelics, the psychedelic drug space?
Absolutely. We're on, it's like Rodney Dangerfield, the comedian in the US, says, I never get any respect. No one gives me respect. Nova doesn't get any respect. No one knows Nova. We're a small, well-honed biotech company. We don't play games. We don't make frivolous announcements. We're not playing this game. We don't have 10 drug products. Oh, I got this compound and I've changed this end and I've changed that end. We have one product, pure psilocybin, microdose therapy. And that's where we are today.
Okay, and it's specifically for Fragile X. But again, the game plan, I mean, like, is once let's say this gets approval, let's say this gets Health Canada FDA approval. The game plan though is once this thing is on the market, then there's off-label use, there's label expansion to other right, because this could be any kind, this could be have applications for a lot of neurological indications, right?
If we had more capital, I wouldn't just stay. We have a pill. That pill can be used in diabetes. That pill can be used in Parkinson's disease. I don't need to have more than one pill, more than one product. The world is a big oyster out there that we can play in. And remember, if you look at the data and this is public information that I presented at the world meetings, we reverse memory in a Fragile X animal, and the endpoint was better than in the original wild type animal. So we may be looking at a normal memory drug here. We may be looking at, and when we dosed it orally, it was better than the injectable. How do you explain that? That's public information. When you inject something, the whole bolus is absorbed. When you give it orally, it goes through the intestinal tract and it's modified. Is the intestinal cells, are the bacteria in the intestine making a more powerful drug than we started with? Or is it biochemically more pure? and it migrates up to the brain because our memory results were beyond expectations. So
Interesting.
this drug has broad applications. We start with the bullseye, Fragile X, see if it works, and then we're going to go on to other indications.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting because in terms of, in terms of the peer group of, psychedelics, companies developing, drugs based on psychedelics, and there's, what is it, half a dozen of these guys right now, Mindment, Atai, a couple of others, right? It could be, this is almost like, like a horse race where, they're all running and all of a sudden from behind, like 10, 20 lengths behind comes, Nova Mentis, 100 to 1 shot, nobody expects it, and, wins the Kentucky Derby. I mean, this is kind of like that, I mean, in other words, if you're the first, you could become the first company to get, FDA approval potentially, right, for a psilocybin-based drug.
That's true.
I mean, it's getting very close. I mean, we're, once the formulation is ready, the study starts. I mean, it's going to be more or less a binary event. Let's say in the next couple of months, right? I mean, let's say the study starts, the study wraps up in, let's say within 6 months. Can I say within 6 months the study should be completed?
Yes.
Okay. So I got something out of you today.
I said, all right, yes, maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
It depends on recruitment of patients. It could be in 2 months.
Okay.
If we recruit, remember, it's only a 30-day treatment period.
Okay. So let's wrap up. We got the Health Canada trial could be starting shortly. I mean, the submission is going to could be any day, could be. The trial could kick off very, very shortly. Meanwhile, I want to kind of recap. There's been a couple of other milestones, right, over the summer. Again, I think you made a point, Marvin, saying like, listen, I don't think anybody's going to accuse Nova Mentis of, over promotion because there's been very little news flow. In other words, I think you're only putting out news which is like, like really substantive. Okay, so you had the Fragile X conference presenting data. That was in July, right? You had positive data that you presented.
And by the way, Jack, that data is available. If any of your followers or readers or people who follow the Wall Street Reporter, they can contact the company on our website and we'll send that data poster to them. In fact, I gave there's a whole video podcast of me presenting the data. So Tara Fosling, who's our marketing guru, she'll send that to anyone who requests it. They'll see me presenting the data, discussing everything I've told you today with memory results and how we dosed it and how the results were as equal, if not better, than the controls. And all of that is available. So what I'm saying is not hearsay. They can listen to me and present the data and see the data. So send it.
How was the response? Okay, so what? By the way, I forgot to ask you. How was the response at the conference? I mean, there's a bunch of attendees. I mean, at this conference.
It wasn't just MDs. These are families
that
are in trenches. That's even more important. These are people who have a dog in the fight. They have a sick child and they want that child to get better. I would say that the response was fantastic. I was very pleased, and if I had to do it again, I would do it because it was a great meeting, and my response that I had to them and them to me was above board.
Okay, and so in June, what is it? You filed. Talk about the patents that you filed in June.
Well, we found before I wanted to present the data at the world meetings, our results were so unique that I wanted to protect them. I didn't want to show them. No one has ever shown that an oral compound of psilocybin is more effective than an injectable, and no one has shown microdose therapy to improve object recognition or memory in an animal model. That's a major plus for us. And so we filed patents on all the data, and then I felt free to show the data at the world meetings, but we had to protect it with patents first. And then we also included in the patents new technology we've developed that not only are we using these object or biased behavioral studies that are used before, we're doing cheek swabs, looking at inflammatory markers. We're measuring saliva for serotonin levels. We're developing that at the University of Central Florida. We may be the first company that can actually monitor a child with autism just by looking in the saliva at serotonin levels. All of that is in the patent.
Okay. This is this is kind of this, the research agreement. Also, this is back in June. You announced that the research agreement with University of Central Florida, and this was for the serotonin assays, right? So you have this. This is you're getting a patent on this, on the serotonin assay.
Yeah, we filed it. The patent was filed.
Okay.
It wasn't issued yet, but we filed on all of that.
Okay, so basically, and that is to measure serotonin levels just from a cheek swab, and the value of that is, you need to, I guess, the serotonin levels essentially tell you if the child has Fragile X or not, or the level. Is that the idea?
No, you can monitor response to therapy.
Response. Okay.
Remember, psilocybin is a serotonin agonist. It goes to the same receptor where serotonin is. So measuring serotonin is an adjunct to our results.
Okay. Okay. So very exciting. I kind of want to wrap up, Marvin. I want to kind of wrap up in terms of, from the investor's perspective, just so investors have an understanding. Okay, what is this worth, right? So, like right now, the stock has like a market cap of like $5 million, which is like a joke, right? The whole company, it's worth, basically the market is saying this thing is worth $5 million bucks. I think if the company was private, it would be worth more than that. But
we can easily be purchased by another pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
That's right now, yes.
Right. So I
mean, we're going to be in other countries. We're not just going to stay here in the U.S. It's a big world out there, so stay tuned.
Once this thing goes into the Health Canada trial, right?
Yes.
I mean, do you want me to take a guess? I mean, like, what should the company, what should valuation be once you enter that this becomes a phase 2A trial, right?
May I suggest something, Jack?
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of territory. Why don't we have this interview again when we make the announcement of submission to Health Canada?
Okay, let's do that. Let's leave something. We don't
want to. Because I've got some major things to hit upcoming. So let me accomplish those, and let's revisit. Because you're trying to say, what are we worth? Why don't we find out? Let's get out some announcements in the near future, near term, not near future, near term, and let's see what happens.
Okay, fair enough. Marvin, thank you. We'll follow up with you in the next couple of weeks. After the Health Canada submission, we'll do a follow-up, and then we can pick up on the potential for valuation.
Absolutely.
Okay.